Is the BP oil spill a fulfillment of Revelation 8:11? And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Since I've been writing on Bible prophecy over the years, I have become a kind of a source for people asking questions about prophetic pronouncements by others. Anytime something happens in the world, people will email me and ask me my thoughts on the subject. Some of them are just simply just seeking information. Gary, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I'll give my opinion on it. This one I thought was very interesting. This fellow writes, he says, since the oil spill occurred, there have been an enormous amount of people who are speculating that the BP oil spill correlates with the prophecy in Revelation chapter 8, verse 11. The name of the star is called Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died in the waters because they were made bitter. And he goes on to write, he says, and then Revelation mentions this star being thrown into the ocean, ablaze, and a third of the ships were destroyed, and a third of the living creatures died. People are saying that since wormwood could be a star, and BP could be referred to as a star, and that the wormwood flower has oil at its base, and that it may possibly resemble the BP logo, I wanted to get your input on this and maybe have you do a video on it. Coincidence? I'm starting to get a headache. Ripping a verse out of context in the book of Revelation is standard fare for lots of people. Hal Lindsey did this back in the 1970s when he talked about Cobra helicopters supposedly found in the book of Revelation. People will find all types of things in the book of Revelation. You traverse 2,000 years of interpretation and you'll find anything going on in their particular day is supposedly a fulfillment of Bible prophecy in that day. And yet, when you study the book of Revelation, there are two things you have to keep in mind. First, when is the prophecy, when was it written, and to what era is it being applied? And then the second thing would be, you have to read the book of Revelation against the backdrop of the Old Testament. The Revelation is dripping with Old Testament allusions. If you don't know the Old Testament, you don't know the book of Revelation. And I would say for most people, it's amazing to me the number of people who write to me and they're all of a sudden experts in Bible prophecy. Revelation is one of the most difficult books in the entire Bible. If you don't know the rest of the Bible, you won't be able to figure out the book of Revelation. And most people don't know the rest of the Bible very well. And as a result, they're easily duped by people who can force or manipulate a particular text to fit a contemporary context. Now, Revelation chapter 8, verse 11, if you read the whole chapter, but we don't even have to do that. All you have to do is look at verses 10 and then just go down a little further. It says, and the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven. Okay, so this is a description of a star falling from heaven. Now, of course, if you take the if you read the Bible literally, like a lot of people say they do, then this has to be a star that falls from heaven. Well, obviously, a star didn't fall from heaven. Actually, this is something that has been seeping up from inside the earth. So right there, it ought to tell you this has nothing whatsoever to do with an oil spill in the Gulf. And you can go into the language of the Old Testament regarding stars, and we'll look at that just a little bit, falling. And it says, and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And now you have to ask the question, where in the Bible is wormwood found? And what does wormwood mean? And again, if you go back to the Old Testament, you can start off with Deuteronomy 29:18, talking about the judgment that's going to come upon Israel, so that there will not be among you a man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away today from the Lord our God to go and serve the gods of those nations, and there will not be among you a root bearing poisonous fruit and wormwood. So the use of wormwood in the Old Testament is an indication of God's judgment. And so when the people of God are doing the right thing and they're being blessed, they will not have to drink the bitterness and the poisonous effect of wormwood. But when God's people are under judgment, and this is specifically talking about Israel, and these are covenantal texts, and Revelation is a book of the covenant, the broken covenant of Israel with God. This isn't about something in the distant future. This is a depiction of things that were going on leading up to, I believe, the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. And you have all of this imagery from the Old Testament related to Egypt and Babylon, as we'll see, being put upon Israel of the first century. Jeremiah 9, verse 15. Therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, this people, with wormwood and give them poisoned water to drink. This is again talking about God's judgment upon Israel during the captivity periods. Jeremiah 23:15. Therefore, thus says the Lord of hosts concerning the prophets, behold, I am going to feed them wormwood and make them drink poisonous water. For from the prophets of Jerusalem pollution has gone forth into all the land. This isn't talking about pollution as we know pollution. It's talking about the pollution of sin that's gone throughout the land. Again, this is dealing with Israel. Lamentations 3:15. He has filled me with bitterness. He has made me drunk with wormwood. And so this association with wormwood and unrighteousness and judgment is what's being pulled into the New Testament, and particularly here in the book of Revelation. And we'll look at, again, this, and the name of the star is called Wormwood. And a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter. And so let's take a look at this just a little bit here. And what you're seeing here is the vision of the third trumpet combines biblical imagery from the fall of both Egypt and Babylon. You know, bitter waters and so forth, and the stars falling. This takes you back to Egypt and takes you back to Babylon. The waters are being made bitter. And this is similar to the first plague on Egypt, in which the water became bitter because of the multitude of dead and decaying fish. I'm taking this from David Chilton's Days of Vengeance. The bitterness of the waters is caused by a great star that fell from heaven burning like a torch. Now again, this has nothing whatsoever to do with BP oil spill, because again, this is something that comes up out of the earth. There's no star that has fallen. And secondly, there's nothing covenantally tied to the judgment upon Israel that we see here. And you might say, well, this is a judgment upon the United States. Well, this may be a judgment upon the United States. I don't know. But that's not what's being described here in Revelation chapter 8. The parallels of Isaiah's prophecy of the fall of Babylon, spoken in the terms of the original fall from paradise. And so when you look at a passage like Isaiah chapter 14, you're seeing in Isaiah chapter 14 this star that's fallen. And I'll have to finish this in the next segment, but let me go on, just deal with this a little bit here. Most people see this as the fall of Satan. This is really the fall of Babylon in Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 15. And in the next session, we'll pick this up again, and to show that this imagery that you see in the book of Revelation about the bitter waters and wormwood is a judgment upon Israel that took place leading up to and including the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. And the imagery of Egypt and the bitter waters and the star falling relates to Babylon. And we're going to see in the book of Revelation, as we see other parts in the New Testament, that this is Israel's fall and Israel's judgment, because Israel is being identified as Egypt and Babylon. You can see the Egypt allusion and also Sodom in Revelation chapter 11. And then later in the book of Revelation, you begin to see that the first century Jerusalem is in fact Babylon.
American Vision is proud to present this year's Worldview Super Conference, July 21st through 24th at North Metro Church, Marietta, Georgia. For more information, visit conference.americanvision.org. That's conference.americanvision.org.